All right, welcome everyone. Let's dive right in. Today, we're looking at something pretty fascinating from Microsoft's Brad Smith, all about, you guessed it, the future of American AI.
Oh, yeah. He paints a pretty interesting picture, doesn't he? Golden opportunities, tough challenges, the whole shebang.
He does, and right off the bat, he makes this comparison that really caught my eye, AI as the new electricity.
Yeah.
He calls it a general-purpose technology, like the steam engine back in the day, or the computer. But what makes AI so different? Like, what sets it apart to the point it could completely change, well, everything?
It's a great question. See, what Smith's getting at is that AI's potential, well, it just explodes beyond any single industry. It's not about, like, simply automating things, It's about changing how we think, how we make decisions, even how we understand the world itself.
He makes a good point about America already being in a pretty strong position to lead this AI charge, thanks to, a lot of private sector innovation. And of course, Microsoft is right there in the mix. He talks about their massive investments in AI infrastructure, working with companies like OpenAI, and how their software is becoming all AI-powered.
Yeah.
They seem all in, but does that kind of dominance risk stifling competition down the line?
It's a valid point to consider. I mean, sure, their investment is pushing things forward, making AI more accessible. But yeah, there's always that potential downside of one company becoming a little too powerful, maybe even controlling where the tech goes.
Yeah. Then he brings up this cool concept, the R&D double helix.
Right.
Basically, American innovation has these two pillars, right? You have basic research, a lot of that's publicly funded, and then you have product development, led by the private sector. So how does this double helix idea actually work with AI? And what does it need to really take off?
Think of it like, well, imagine building a house. The basic research that's laying the foundation. It's understanding AI's core principles, coming up with new algorithms, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Then the private sector steps in. They're the builders, turning those principles into products and services we actually use. Smith argues that for American AI to really thrive, we got to invest in both sides of the equation.
Gotcha, makes sense. What does he specifically suggest to make that double helix spin even faster?
One thing he highlights is increasing funding for basic research, at places like the National Science Foundation. It's about giving researchers more resources to explore and push the limits of AI, really get those creative juices flowing.
Like giving the builders, better tools and materials to create something really groundbreaking. But what about the people who will be working with this AI? Smith's pretty upfront about the fact that jobs will be disrupted. That can be a little unnerving, to be honest.
Absolutely. The AI skills gap is a real concern.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. Smith emphasizes that with every tech revolution, jobs change, but new ones pop up too. Remember when computers first came along, people were worried about mass unemployment.
Right.
And what happened? Boom. New jobs exploded in software, data analysis, fields that didn't even exist before.
So it's not about jobs vanishing. It's about learning new skills for the jobs of the future.
Exactly. And this isn't just for tech specialists either. Being AI fluent is going to be crucial across all sorts of industries, from healthcare to manufacturing, even education. Think of it like learning a new language. The more fluent you are in AI, the better you navigate this new world.
So we're talking community colleges offering AI courses, LinkedIn Learning, on-the-job training, all focused on AI. It's just the beginning. What should people be doing right now so they don't get left behind?
Be proactive. Don't wait for AI to come knocking. Explore online resources, try introductory courses, even just familiarize yourself with the basics. The more you grasp about AI, the more you control your own future.
Makes sense. So, okay, we've got American innovation going strong, people upskilling left and right. Smith then talks about this really interesting point, how AI has the potential to level the playing field. Like, it can empower small businesses to compete with the big guys, even address economic inequality. But is it really that simple?
Yeah.
What about the potential downsides we need to think about?
Right. AI's got massive potential for good, no doubt. But it's not a magic fix-it-all solution. We've got to be careful about how it's developed and used, making sure it benefits everyone. And there's always the risk of misuse, right? Like reinforcing biases that already exist or creating a new kind of digital divide.
So how do we make sure AI is used ethically, especially with all this potential for disruption?
Yeah, it's a huge question. And it feels like the tech companies building this stuff have a lot of responsibility, right? Smith does talk about some of the steps Microsoft's taking. What stood out to you? Well, it's clear Microsoft knows we need widespread AI literacy, Their plan to train 2.5 million Americans in AI skills, that's impressive. Especially because they're not just focusing on, Silicon Valley types.
Exactly. He mentions community colleges, teachers, even rural areas through 4-H and those Future Farmers programs. It seems like they're really trying to reach everyone.
It does. It makes me think they see this as something we need to do as a society, not as a business opportunity. They're trying to democratize AI education. That's crucial if we want everyone to benefit, not just a select few.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so we've got this picture of what's happening here in the U.S. starting to form, but then Smith brings in this whole other layer, right? The global AI landscape, this AI export race between the U.S. and China. Why is that such a big deal?
Well, think about the example he uses, the telecom industry. China, with companies like Huawei, they got a huge global foothold by offering cheap tech and infrastructure to developing countries. They kind of outmaneuvered the West there.
So are we going to see that happen again with AI? Could China end up calling the shots, controlling most of the AI infrastructure worldwide?
It's a real possibility, and it's not just about who has the best tech either. It's about influence, who gets the data, who sets the rules for how AI is used globally.
So how do we avoid that? What does Smith see as America's advantages in this race? Does he think we can win?
He points to a few things. Better technology, a focus on trustworthy AI, cybersecurity, privacy, and strong alliances with other countries. But he's not naive. He knows we can't just sit back. China's good at finding ways to overcome obstacles, achieving those big goals they set.
It seems like a lot rides on how the U.S. government handles this then. What role does Smith want them to play? Should we just be throwing money at the problem, trying to match China dollar for dollar?
Actually, he's against that. He says the U.S. shouldn't be trying to outspend China. Instead, we need a smarter approach that support the private sector, don't tie them down with too many rules. He's worried about regulations stifling innovation, making us slow and clunky.
So, a lighter touch from the government, but still focused on keeping America ahead. What does he actually want them to do?
He talks about smart export controls, protecting sensitive technologies from falling into the wrong hands. But he also stresses we need to create an environment where American companies can thrive, compete globally.
Sounds like he's really banking on the private sector to drive this AI innovation, keep America at the top. But how do we balance that with, making sure it's ethical, that it doesn't make existing problems worse? Where do we draw that line?
That's a tough question, isn't it? It's this balancing act.
Yeah.
Keep things moving fast, protect national interests, but also do things the right way. It's not easy to figure out.
It really is a tough one. It feels like we're at this crossroads, So much potential, but so much we don't know yet.
Sure.
What are your big takeaways from all this? What stuck with you?
I think for me, it's that reminder that AI isn't just some tech thing happening over there somewhere. It's going to touch every part of our lives, the jobs we have, how we interact with the world, everything. And we all have a part to play in shaping it, whether we're, coding AI or just talking about it like we are now.
Right. We've covered a lot of ground today. We started with AI being this game changer, like electricity was way back when.
Yeah.
Then we looked at where America stands, all this energy from the private sector, but that competition with China looming. And we can't forget about the people,
Yep.
making sure everyone has the skills they need, that AI helps everyone, not just a select few.
Yeah. One thing that really hit home for me was how much Smith believes in private sector investment. He's not saying the government needs to step in and do everything. He thinks American companies with the right support, smart regulations, they can lead the way in this new AI world. But it does make you wonder, is that enough? Does the government need to do more to make sure AI is developed ethically, that it benefits all Americans? What do you think?
Yeah, and how do we even wrap our heads around the global impact of this technology? It's one thing to talk about, America versus China, but AI is going to change the whole world. It makes you think, how do we work together globally to make sure it's used responsibly for the good of everyone, not just for profit or power?
It's definitely not a problem any one country, company, or person can solve alone. It's going to take a global effort, a willingness to be open, to talk honestly about the challenges and the amazing opportunities AI brings.
Absolutely. This has been a fascinating conversation. I feel like we've just scratched the surface, though. What would you say to our listeners who've been with us on this deep dive about what to do next? Where should they go from here?
Stay curious. Don't let this be the end of it. Keep learning, keep asking those tough questions, keep the conversation going. The more we all understand about AI, the better equipped we'll be to navigate this new world and make sure it's a world that works for everyone.
Could have said it better myself. And on that note, thank you all for joining us on this deep dive into the future of American AI. It's a future that's still being written, and we're all part of the story.